reports are that he has been absolutely lights out in preseason, and yeah, look out for him. He could be a great pickup for them in the draft.
All right, Neil, I'm going to come to you now with the next game kickoff at 7:30. First Energy Stadium, Cleveland, Detroit Lions at Cleveland Browns. What did Ben have to say about the Cleveland Browns?
Well, Ben is saying the Browns got caught up looking ahead last week to the Great Lakes Classic to finish up all their important preseason. Good God, this is going to be a terrible watch. I'm sorting out the language here, Jay, to keep it family friendly. What I hope to happen, what Ben hopes to happen, we play 0 starters. I think that's probably nailed on, Ben. Forfeit the game, whatever it takes. Just for the love of God, no injuries. And I think that's something we can all agree with.
Absolutely.
Some positions that may be interesting in Buffalo there. Backup safeties. Their safeties. They're not great. And yeah, I'm not going to read any more of this, honestly.
Yeah,
put words in here I'm about to.
He's got a lot of rubbish in his language.
Yeah, let's just say that Ben's excited for week 1. Perhaps
there's a lot of his heart on this page here that I'm looking at.
James, was Josh just as dirty with his language in writing up the Lions?
Briefly skimming, unimportant game. Hopefully not a ton of injuries. First, the guy that he's rooting for to make the team that probably won't is undrafted free agent guard Bo Benchwazul. Not only did I select him in the 4th round of our SuperFan mock draft, but he actually ended up on our team. I'd like to be right about him. I'll be honest. I'm a little skeptical about our depth at guard anyway, now that Frank Ragnow could miss a week or two. Biggest question mark, linebacking core. Everything about it. Is Jarrett Davis a true leader? The depth, the roles, and the development of the group as well. Those questions have been answered. The rookie middle linebacker, Jelani Tavai, has shown out big time and has proven to be worth perceived reach in round 2. The young up-and-comer Jalen Reeves-Maben has been crushing it in camp in all 3 games thus far. Bad news is the newfound depth that has appeared has been cut short by last week's injuries to Davis. Again, hoping he comes back very soon from the ankle injury.
Lions are a team. You know, I've been talking about Matthew Stafford and sort of his off-field issues, which have, oddly enough, gone way under the radar. Nobody seems to be talking about Matthew Stafford's wife and her recovery from brain cancer. That is something that is going to weigh heavily upon him all season long. And, first of all, wish the best to the Stafford family. It's certainly nothing that we'd ever wish upon anyone. And obviously family and life comes first. But at the same time, when you're looking at a football team that's looking to take another step forward, I think it's going to be a tough road for the Detroit Lions this season.
Adversity can affect you in 2 ways, can't it? It can either make you struggle through life, or else it can drive you on. And I hope it's the latter for Stafford. I quite like to see how they look with their Hawkinson, the number 1 draft pick tight ends in there, because I think that's something that Stafford needs. We talked earlier about Josh Allen having to learn to throw the short pass to Beasley, I think it was, and this time I think it's probably good for Stafford to have a really good short range target in Hawkinson. That might help his game quite a bit.
Well, speaking of tight ends, we move to another 7:30 kickoff at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. The New York Giants at the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I've got this game. Yeah,
the Patriots. I wrote up my example for the SuperFans over the weekend. Maurice Harris is not a number 1 receiver, but he could be as high as a strong number 2 receiver for a team, and he's going to get that chance already because he's been in injury release by the New England Patriots. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't have him come back to the team. As a matter of fact, it's probably in his best interest, because if they had left him on IR, he was on IR for the whole season. He wouldn't be able to play at all. giving him the injury release gives him an opportunity to play at some point down the road. No real confirmation on what his injury is, which also leads me to believe that he's hanging around New England, perhaps with a chance to return. I guess
funny Patriots with the injury report. It's not hockey, Jake. Just say what it is. Move on.
Well, the rumors are it's some sort of mid-foot injury, perhaps either a Liz Frank type injury or some sort of break in the foot. But certainly something that will keep him out for a good portion of the season anyway. This does free up a roster slot. And to get on the IR for the season, they would have had to keep him on the 53 original roster.
Right.
And they have ginormous depth at wide receiver this year, which goes to sort of the answer to the question that the Patriots had, was finding a replacement for Gronk. And my answer to that is no, they did not find a replacement to Gronk, but yes, I do believe they found a replacement to his production, because you're not going to replace Gronk with just one guy. And it appears that the Patriots aren't going to do it with tight ends, because none of the tight ends on the roster are worth anything. They could literally cut all of their tight ends and pick up whomever the junk is. I know later on we're going to see Monty says Luke Wilson is probably going to get cut by the Raiders. I have a jersey waiting for Luke Wilson in New England. He can come on over and play for the Patriots. But the tight ends are horrible. The wide receiving core, though, I think is really, really deep. There's been a lot of talk about if Philip Dorsett is going to make the roster or not. Listen, Philip Dorsett has clearly earned the trust of Tom Brady, which is huge in making the roster. He's not a number one first round wide receiver as he was drafted, but he is a guy sort of, when I compare him to the undrafted free agent superstar Jacoby Myers, Dorsett is the guy that's going to make catches, but he's not going to make plays. He's going to get open, catch the ball, get tackled. Jacoby Myers, on the other hand, is the guy that he's going to drop a pass or two, as was seen in the preseason game when he played with Tom Brady, but Brady was throwing that ball behind him. So Brady and Jacoby just simply weren't on the same page when it came to connecting. But Jacoby was open, and when Jacoby did play with Stidham afterwards, where he clearly has made a connection, he was not only open, but making plays. And that's sort of the difference between those two wide receivers. Dorsett is going to make catches, not make plays. He's a catcher, not a playmaker. Jacoby Myers, I think, is a playmaker in the making.
How's Harry looking?
Harry, and N'Keal Harry, well, he's injured. So that's been the biggest thing. The little that we've seen from N'Keal Harry, he seems to be kind of like a Dorsett, I'd have to say. He's a guy that's going to make catches, not necessarily make plays. So, he knows how to get open initially, but doesn't necessarily know how to shake the coverage after that.
Okay. So your great wide receiver core is based on two guys who make catches but not plays, an injured guy, and Josh Gordon's 4 games before he gets suspended.
Josh Gordon's going to go more than 4 games before he gets suspended. But,
5?
No, I'll give Josh Gordon the entire season. He's going to be just fine.
Oh, gosh.
He's going to do just great. But then we also have Jacoby Myers. I'm missing. And Julian Edelman. Edelman, the forgotten guy here.
Never heard of that guy.
Yeah. Till his next suspension, James. Huh?
Basically.
Jared writes in about the Giants. So the Giants have this Nebraska kid named Nick Gates on the roster. He played awesome in the preseason so far and just has pure hustle. I'm not certain where he will fall in their roster or out of it, but I sincerely hope they hold on to him since he's a starting caliber offensive lineman. Biggest question was the Giants defense. I would disagree. I wrote off Daniel Jones at the draft, so I wanted to know if we could rush the passer and see if our secondary is a top 10 one like I thought it was on paper. The answer, our secondary definitely looks like it'll be in the top 10, but our pass rush is, it's a rush. Definitely needs work, but serviceable enough. I dare say we've had this argument before, Neil. If you don't have a pass rush, I don't care how good your secondary is, you're probably still going to struggle.
Yeah, guys will eventually get open.
Yeah, I don't know about you, James. I don't see much of a Giants defense there. It could be proven wrong, of course, but it doesn't look great to me.
Well, hey, we'll find out because they go up against a very quality, solid quarterback in week 1 when they play Dallas. So if Dak carves them up week 1, then, they're definitely not going to be top 10.
That just sounds unfair to me. How can you let that happen to the Giants defense, to let such a great player at them? Oh.
It's well done, gentlemen. Well done. I actually think the biggest question for the Giants going into this offseason was their offensive line. Could they stand up and protect, whether it was Eli Manning or the circus that surrounds Daniel Jones?
Jay, that's not a big question because we answered that in the offseason when we talked about the acquisitions during free agency. So, we already knew the answer to that early enough.
All right, fair enough.
He went the right route. Trust me, we've already trashed the Giants' offensive line.
All right, Neil, this one's all for you. It's the Baltimore Ravens, Washington Redskins, 7:30 kickoff at FedEx Field.
Well, Jay, the run to the Super Bowl starts here for the Ravens. I think Washington. I answered your three questions, Jay. I think Robert Davis, wide receiver, he had a promising preseason in 2018, then got himself injured, of course, and then missed, I think, the entire season almost. And he's right on that edge. So, now, don't laugh, guys, but actually, Washington has a lot of exciting young talent at wide receiver, and it could well be that Josh Doxson, who has been a massive disappointment since he was drafted by Scott McCloughan back in 2016, it'll be now 2017. He actually may get cut because of the young guys who are on the roster who actually looking better, and Robert Davis is one of those. So let's see if he makes the final cuts. If he doesn't, there's a guy, if you're short of a wide receiver, a guy to pick up on waivers when all the cuts happen. There's actually been very few battles at Washington, really. I'm not sure if that's a sign of a decent roster or a sign of just a really bad roster. I'm thinking probably the latter, because we got one injury to Reuben Foster, the man of the people, Reuben Foster. He was injured in the summer, and we brought in John Bostic, who's just walked straight into a starting job and is an unquestioned leader in the team. And you think, that isn't right. You can't just bring a guy in who's been cut by a number of teams over his short career, and all of a sudden he's a leader in a solid start on a team. That's a bit of a worry to me, to be honest. Not many battles. The quarterback was probably the main one, and we know now that Case Keenum will be the starting quarterback. And, well, that doesn't inspire many Washington fans, but I think it's the right call. I think there's probably a temptation just to chuck Haskins in there, but he's not ready, Haskins. He has 4 or 5 really good plays and really, really good plays, and then he has 4 or 5 really, really, not unprepared rookie quarterback plays that you kind of think, oh God, that's terrible. But he certainly showed flashes of being a really terrific player. So give him time. That's the right decision, and it's not often we make the right decision in Washington. And thirdly,
Neil, my big question to you is Trent Williams. When do we see him, and is it in a Redskins uniform?
When do we see him in a Redskins uniform? I don't think we will. I think it's more and more likely now, Jay, that he will get traded. I know, well, certainly we've all read reports that New England offered a first-round pick for him, which was turned down. Washington are looking for a first-round pick plus for Williams. We'll see if they get that or not. I wouldn't give more than a first. I give a first for him, but no more than that. We'll see how that looks. But the longer it goes, Jay, the less I can see him playing for Washington in the future. It's a shame. What a great player, our best player at the club for a number of years, and he really is. And I'm not wearing my Washington glasses here. He is a great left tackle.
Neil, I have a question.
Go on.
And this is my big question for your squad going into the season. Will the training staff be able to keep more than half the roster off injured reserve this year?
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're one of our most consistent units, James. They have, through all the dark days, they've managed to keep every season to keep our roster and our group of talented players in that treatment room. No problem at all. And I think if they can continue doing that, then we'll just get higher and higher picks in the first round, and one day we'll be thanking them.
I only asked because I think, what was it, after the second or third game this preseason, Jordan Reed was already on the injury report as far as having, what was the concussion protocol or a leg injury?
Yeah, he